Alicia with You and Me Farms. Welcome. Come on in. We're in the kitchen today and we are going to be whipping up some amazing rabbit and dumplings with some farm fresh carrots, freshly harvested rabbit, some sage right out of the garden. Can't wait to meet you in the kitchen. Come see what we got going on. Hi there, this is Alicia with You and Me Farm, and today we are making rabbit and dumplings. We have just started harvesting our California white rabbits. They are a beautiful meat rabbit, and we have got some amazing rabbit meat. You can see right here that once we've cooked it down and braised it all night long, we've been able to pick all this beautiful meat off there for our rabbit and dumplings. We'll cook that with some sage, some really good flavors in there, garlic and rosemary, and just really get some nice flavor going on in a stock. You can see on the back pan right there that's kind of bubbling down, really condensing all that flavor. A few moments ago, I picked some beautiful carrots right from our garden. They are still covered in dirt, as I hope you can see, and they're just, they're so fun and cute and little, and they are going to be so good in this dish. So I'm going to get those rinsed off and kind of broken down just a little bit. I want them to still be nice and thick and chunky so that they really flavor up that dish and are nice and hearty in there. But we want to pare them down just a little bit so they're not too big to bite into. We'll put that into our stock and let that start cooking down, really condensing that flavor a little bit more. It's a lot of broth right now. We want it to be down a little bit more to make more of a gravy. And then once we get that really nice and ready to go, we'll fold in our rabbit meat, put it in our cast iron pan, drop some biscuits over the top and pop it in the oven. It'll all get bubbly and gooey and wonderful together. Those biscuits will brown, and that will be our dish. So we're so excited. I cannot wait to get in here and really just get into the kitchen and get cooking today. It is a Sunday. It is absolutely beautiful outside. We are very, very happy to be working with our rabbit. It's going to taste amazing, and we hope you'll join us in the kitchen. Thanks so much.
Okay, so what we have here is our bones and meat from the rabbit. What we've done is we've taken all of the rabbit after we've cooked it down. We've cooked it in a pot all night long in our oven, just in some oil, salt, and sage, getting that really flavoring that meat, a little bit of chili, cumin, some other fun things in there, just to season it up a little bit. Whatever you like to put on your meat to flavor it is a great way to cook that meat down. Get it to fall off the bone, just like we have it here. This beautiful meat, some of the bones in here. And then once we've done that, we've picked our meat, and I have that in a separate spot that I'll show you. We've got that ready to put in our rabbit and dumplings later on. But before we do that, we want to make this beautiful broth of the rabbit. So it's got that nice, rich texture and flavor to it. So all I did was pick the meat off, and I used all of the remaining skin, the bones, anything that we aren't going to actually put into the meat, into our broth. I cooked that all down, and I've just taken that and I've strained it out, and I've just dumped in any of the last little bits of juice. We don't want to waste any of it because it is so good. And as we've cooked it down, I've added some more, you can see some more sage. I have this beautiful fresh sage from the garden that I picked this morning, some bay leaves, and just a little bit of salt, garlic, a little celery. All put that in there together, and that's been cooking down and condensing all morning long, really getting the flavor in this stock to be just so thick and rich and beautiful. And as you can see here, a nice thick consistency, beautiful color, and it smells so good. I wish y'all could see this. Oh, it's just so good. But this is one way that we're going to utilize our rabbits on the farm, is by cooking them down and really utilizing every single ounce of that meat that we get with our California white rabbits. and we are going to make this beautiful dish today with the rabbit and the dumplings. So we've got our broth, our stock, which has really been cooked down from the bones and all the flavor. Got that going on in here. There's a little bit of meat in here that's just kind of fallen off the bones that I wanted to save. You can see a little bit of that really, really juicy, beautiful meat that's going on there, and again, continuing to flavor that. In a few minutes, I will take those beautiful carrots that we picked out of the garden. I'll get them all washed up and I'll put them down in here, let them kind of cook and absorb some of that. We want to bring this down a little bit more, condense down that flavor in that stock, so it's not quite so much soup as it is more of a gravy. So once we do that, that'll all go in here. We'll put it in that cast iron pan, pop it in the oven to bake off those biscuits on the top, and it'll be an amazing meal. So I can't wait. It's looking really good. Welcome back to the kitchen. So as you can see, I have been chopping up these carrots. I'm really just taking off the ends, making sure they've got a nice clean edge to them so that I can get them ready for our stock. Just trim off those little pieces that you don't want in there. A little bit of those roots and things like that. Roots and stems is really what we're taking off. This is my chef knife, Lola. It's my absolute favorite one. Any knife that you really feel really good about, you got to give it a name. So this one's Lola. Welcome, meet her. And she's just in here with me, getting these carrots all ready to go. I'm just going to pop some of these out into slightly smaller chunks, just so that they're a little bit more comfortable. As you can see, these are fresh right out of the garden, so some of them are going to have a little bit of maybe a little bug on in there or something, or just the root was down a little bit. So any of those that don't look quite the way you want them to, just trim them down, and off you go. Nice, big, chunky pieces. We're going to cook these down in that stock. Just cutting all these pieces down. You don't want them to be too big. It's not comfortable for anybody to stick something too big in their mouth. Just a little rough chop on those, but they will soften and cook down in our stock as well. So you don't have to make them minced or too tiny at all. They'll be perfect just like that. So we are almost done with these, knocking them out. I think everything else looks good. Those two might be a little bit long, so we'll cut that down. And that looks really good. So we have those ready to stick into our stock. We've got our rabbit that we pulled right over here. All that beautiful meat that's ready. It's been cooked down, so it's nice and soft and tender. It's all seasoned very nicely. Just a little salt, pepper, garlic. We've cooked it down in some sage, so that'll really help flavor that meat as well. We love sage with rabbit. It just enhances the flavor so much. So we'll put these potatoes into our stock, which is cooking on our stove. It's got a nice boil to it. So go ahead and add those in there right now. Let that all get cooking together. Really start to flavor up those carrots. Just give it a good little stir. Get everything really going in there. And we'll let that stay and cook down a little bit longer. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put together a roux, which is just essentially a thickening agent. Some flour, salt, maybe some more of that sage, maybe a little bit more garlic, just to kind of flavor that up. And then we're going to put that into our broth when it's at a full rolling boil, so it'll help break down all those flavors in the flour and really thicken our sauce without making it chunky. So it's a really nice way to do that. I'll get that put together for us, and that'll be kind of the components that go in. Once we have that roux cooked in, our carrots are cooked down a little bit more, we'll pop in our rabbit meat, we'll put all of that into our cast iron pan, and then we'll whip our biscuits up, put those over the top, and stick it in the oven. I hope you'll stick around. Okay, the next step we're going to do is we're going to fry up some sage leaves. I'm just heating up some sage oil that we used while cooking down the rabbit and checking it out here if it is quite ready to do our frying. It looks like we're pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and try one little leaf in here and see how it does. Yes, perfect. Okay, so the oil, it just means that the oil is really hot. When I put the wooden spoon in, I'm not sure if you can see it from quite that far away, but what it does is it actually creates little bubbles right around the edge of the wooden stick. This is an old trick that I learned from my Italian grandparents a long, long time ago, and it always works for me, always, always. So I always use it. But when I put it in, I see the little bubbles right around the edge of the wood, and I know that it's ready. All right, so what I've got here is I've got some bundles of sage that I've gotten ready for each of us that are having dinner tonight. So I want to put those together, and we shall be ready. I'm just going to pop the sage in the pan just like that. And oh yes, it is just bubbling up. It is perfect to fry those sage leaves. Oh, it looks so good and so crispy. And once those leaves kind of start to cinch up on themselves and turn a darker color, then I know that it is ready, ready, ready. Just going to flip it over just a little bit there so it can get all the underneath side also. And that looks perfect. I'm going to drain that on this towel over here, and then I'm going to add a little bit of salt to it in just a minute to help those leaves kind of add that flavor. Ooh, isn't that fun? Kind of like fireworks. Just be careful not to get your fingers too close to the edge. Of course, you can always use tongs to hold on to those stems as well. I cook a lot, so I'm not too worried about it. My hands are pretty used to being hot. And there we have that next one. Oh, it's looking so pretty. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little salt to the first one as I pull out the second one. Add a little bit of salt right there as well. And then I'm going in with this next one. Just like that. Crimps up all those little edges. Crisps up that sage. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so good. I'm gonna put that right on top of the dumplings for each person. And it looks so pretty on the plate. It's just those little extra things that bring your dish over the top. You don't have to do this. You can put the sage right into your dumplings or right into the biscuits on the top, but why not? It's just fun. Plus, it's really cool. There we go. Flip it over just a little bit. That one's ready. I'll go ahead and salt those two. Just a little bit of that coarse ground. I'm using a coarse ground kosher salt. And the oil that I used for this sage oil is just a traditional vegetable oil or canola oil, whatever you have on hand that you're comfortable with using, that you like. That's all I did was I put some of this fresh sage in the pan with the rabbit yesterday. I let that cook off all night long. Really did what we call a confit, which is cooking that meat in the oil. Let those flavors infuse in there. And then this morning I reserved some of that oil so that I could do these fried sage leaves. So you're frying the sage leaves in sage oil that you used up from the night before. Finishing that off. Last little pinch of salt. And that's it. Just that easy. Fried sage leaves, and they're going to make a beautiful topping. Great flavor. They're really crunchy and crispy and so delicious. I hope y'all give this a try. It's great with any fresh herbs, but sage particularly because it's such a nice thick leaf and it's so hardy. It will really hold up well to that frying as opposed to something delicate like a parsley or cilantro. Still really good flavor, but this will certainly hold up better and make a nicer presentation. So y'all enjoy. Okay, now we're going to make our dumpling biscuit mix to go over the top of our stock. So we've got measured out here 1 cup of milk, 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of coarse salt, and 4 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm also going to finish chopping up a little bit of fresh sage. I know I use a lot of sage in this recipe, but it really just makes this so good and come all together. All those flavors, bring those all together at the same time. So I put just a little bit of sage into our biscuit mix as well, and then that'll finish off the sage for this. So for these, I've just done a little quick chop. I've brought these all close together just like that with my knife, and I've just done really skinny little slices. I think that's going to be enough there. And then I've gone kind of the other way, keeping those all bundled together. Just nice little tiny bits. So really all we want this to do is flavor throughout the entirety of the biscuit. We don't want to have any large pieces that we're biting into. It's not meant to feel like a leaf. We just want it to add some flavor. Now you could of course use dried sage or any other flavoring. If you love rosemary with your meat, that is always good too. But this is just so good and in the garden and really fresh. So we want to use the fresh while we've got it. Alright, that looks good. Nice and small pieces, just a little bit of a crumble. And we'll go ahead and add that in
here in just a moment. We'll add all these ingredients in, whisk it together, and then we're going to let it sit for a little while to activate that baking powder so it really gets nice and fluffy when we drop those biscuits on our stock. Those are going to be great. And then we'll go ahead and make our roux, and we'll get all that compiled together, and then all the pieces are really just going to be put together to make our final product. It's going to be great. So here we go. We're going to add our flour. That was 2 cups of flour into there. We'll go ahead and add our salt. We're going to add our dry ingredients all at the same time. Whisk those together a little bit so they're all incorporated throughout that flour, and then we'll add in the milk and put that all together that way. Sprinkle on our baking powder right over the top. Making sure we get all of that. And we whisk it together. I love a good whisk. It really helps incorporate everything nicely. It fluffs it up, brings the air on there, and I feel like it really helps distribute all those different flavors throughout. And then while we've got that there, we'll go ahead and add in our sage. I love these little cutting boards that are flexible like this, so you can just fold them up, dust it in, and off you go. Oh, that's going to really distribute that nicely. Bring that all whisked in there. Okay, now we've got that. We'll pour in our milk. It's probably going to get a little gummy. We may need to go to a spoon instead of a whisk, but we'll see how well it comes together while we stir it. Stir it a little bit slow so our flour doesn't fluff all out like it just did there a moment ago. Plus it helps give that milk a little bit of time to soak into the flour. This is going to be a nice thick dough. Okay, and it's all incorporated just like that. Like I said, we're going to let that sit in there just to go ahead and activate that baking powder, and then we'll be all finished. And we'll put it into our stew here in just a little while. Okay, so now we're going to put together that roux that I've been talking about for our stocks. Thicken it up and make it a little bit more like gravy than soup or stew. So into this pan, we are going to put, just started heating up just a little bit here, we're going to use some of our sage oil. A typical roux is going to call for butter, and you would normally use that as your kind of creaming and thickening agent. One of the people we're having over tonight is non-dairy, so we want to make sure that we accommodate for everyone and still use some nice, good, rich fats to go in there and help us thicken up that gravy. So we're going to use that oil that we've been using to fry up those sage leaves and to base our rabbit in overnight. So we've got that in there. I'll let that start heating up a little bit. Typically also with the roux, you would put in carrots and celery, maybe some onion, get that cooking down. A lot of it is already in our stock, so we don't need to have both in there. But we'll season this up with some garlic and celery salt, and then we'll put the flour in and thicken that up, and that'll work the same way with the vegetables that are already in the stock. So while that oil heats up, I'm going to get a little bit of our celery salt. We just like to keep these on hand. They're a great little flavor that goes so well with so many things. Put a couple of pinches of that in there. And again, that has salt already in it, so I'm not going to add additional salt. We don't want to make this too salty. Then I've got our garlic powder. Just plain garlic powder, not garlic salt. Again, we don't want to add too many components of salt. We want to be able to add the salt as we want to and not contribute it from other things coming in. So I'll give that a little stir. Incorporate that a little. We can always add more of our oil, more of our flour to get the perfect consistency that we want. So it's getting nice and hot. Our oil is starting to bubble and sizzle a little bit, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to put a little bit of our flour in there. Get that all incorporated with that oil. It's going to brown up a little bit, which is exactly what we want it to do. And you can continue cooking it down for however brown you want your gravy. So if you want your gravy to be really brown and rich, a little bit more nutty and savory, you can continue cooking it down. If you want it to be a little bit creamier and more white, like the traditional white gravy would be, then you would just get it to that point of a roux, and then you would be done with it and you put it into your thickening from there. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. I'm going to add a little bit more oil. Let that flour cooking down in there. That's a little better, a little bit more saucy, a little crumbly. Just get it nice and cooked down. So the perfect consistency. And once that cooks, we'll add it to our stock, which is at a nice, really good simmer right now. I'll probably turn the heat up so it's a nice full rolling boil. So when I do add that in there, it incorporates quickly and evenly, keeping us from having a lot of chunks in there. There we go. That's looking really nice. You can see that that's just nice and creamy and smooth. It's starting to get a little bit of a brown color to it. Just a very light tan, not real dark. I don't want this to get too dark. I just want it to be the right consistency. Always make more and add more, but we want to start out with a small amount when we go into our stock so that we don't end up with pudding. We want gravy, nice creamy consistency. So I'll move this out of the way. As I mentioned, I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit on our stock pot. It just has a beautiful carrots, some of the meat. I'm going to actually go ahead and put that rounded meat in there right now so y'all can see that too. And it's already at a rolling boil. It was so ready. It's so close. So I'm going to go ahead and put this beautiful meat in there. And they're all incorporated into those flavors. And then we'll add that in. Of course, that's going to cool down our mixture a little bit because we're adding in food that's not boiling temperature. Get it just enough to come to a boil. Stir this so it doesn't burn. Okay. Alright, I'm going to turn that off and just leave that. Stir this in a little bit. We're already almost back to that boil. So that was really good. Perfect. So good. Okay, some of this, not all of it. Right into that pan, and then just stir it right around really quickly so that it doesn't, like I said, we don't want it to get all thick and chunky, we want it to be nice and smooth. As it continues to boil, it will start to thicken. So don't add it all right away. Just because it doesn't already look thick, don't add too much too fast. That's looking so good and it smells so good. Just a little bit. We don't want our rolling boil to boil right after that. A little bit more. Give it another good stir. It's thickening up. It's starting to become a little bit more solid looking, not solid feeling, but more thickened texture. Just the right amount here. It's doing all the work for me. All that beautiful flavor. That's going to be perfect. I'm going to transfer this to a large cast iron pan, and I'm going to start dropping our biscuits on there for a moment, get this oven nice and hot, and then we'll just put my dumplings right on top of here. I've spread them out in my nice big cast iron pan. I'm going to put a lid over it so that our dumplings can steam and cook all the way through. And I'm going to put it right into the oven so that it can do its thing. And I'm going to lift this into this giant big heavy oven, so I'm going to turn this off so I've got both hands to work with. And I'll see you on the other side when we take it out. Hopefully it's amazing. Can't wait to show you. Okay, so I've gotten our rabbit and dumplings out of the oven. It has been cooking in there for the last 15 minutes. I put my timer on, covered the lid, left those in there for 15 minutes so they could steam inside that gravy mixture and perfect little dumpling biscuits right on top. I'm going to lift this one lid here in just a minute. I have a nice pan out here. I'm just going to get just another couple of seconds to kind of finish off. I've got you changed for the night. Our guests are just about to be here. I'm so excited to serve this. I can't wait to see how it turns out. It smells so good. And I hope y'all have enjoyed this today. I'm going to put the reveal here in just a second. I'm going to leave that covered while we finish up. But again, thank you for joining us at You and Me Farms while we've done our cooking today on rabbit and dumplings, fresh from our farm with our vegetables and herbs, with our rabbit that we harvested. And we hope you come back and join us again soon.